Let me know when you're ready.
All right, we're ready, Tim. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm good.
Brian, the biggest conspiracy of the day.
Well, there's a lot of them, but we were just talking about the fact that Dodge doesn't make cars anymore.
And does Ford make cars?
Well, Ford stopped making cars. It wasn't like Dodge stopped making cars in order to make electric cars.
Okay.
They're making an electric Challenger.
Right.
The issue is that they're creating electronic noise for the car, like they're pumping it through speakers, and then they've created some kind of a weird like funnel that runs, I think it runs through like exhaust to make some kind of a noise.
So that people think and people understand there's a car coming instead of just quiet.
No, it's because like part of the enjoyment of a car is, especially if you're buying like a Challenger or a Charger or a Hellcat or a Red Eye,
Right.
is the sound it makes. So like one of the biggest issues like is that the Tesla, even the Plaid, doesn't make any noise. So it's like, have you ever been on a golf cart, like you hit the gas and goes, it's like, it's fun to do.
Sure.
But then you get on like, a four-wheeler and the noise, there's something about the whole thing. There's something that we all grew up hearing the noise, especially like if you're a car enthusiast, you're into like the sound of the transmission shifting.
Right.
Electric cars don't have transmission. So they've even had like, I think the Porsche has like
They have an electric car, man.
well, they
It's
have
wild.
like they have a really nice electric car, but I think they put like a transmission that shifts like one gear. It's like high and low or something like that.
Well, I'll tell you, this spins back. Let's get back into real estate. Do you know why?
Yeah.
So with the pivot that occurred with the 2021 pandemic, right? Everybody started working from home.
Yeah.
So working from home, number one. The government realized the massive savings they've incurred having people work from home, number one. Okay.
Whose savings? The government
The
savings?
government is saving. Yeah, because the government can still tax the living hell out of you, right? But now they don't have to fulfill all of the general needs of these massive buildings, these massive city centers, people working from
I mean
their
like
home
local
sites.
governments?
Local governments.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like the U.S. government.
No.
Okay.
So massive savings along those lines. Now think about this. You ready? You don't need as many roadways. You don't have as many traffic issues. I mean, multiple
DC's
steps
still
in
got
this.
horrible traffic, but
They do, but realistically, if we can cut down the pollution, which is a major factor, right? So climate.
so here's my
errors.
thing with that, and we can go down this rabbit hole if you want to.
Go ahead.
And you can look this up. They said that the average American IQ went up 2 points when they stopped putting lead in gasoline. And the vehicles that polluted in the 70s and 60s, there were fewer cars on the road because there were fewer human beings. But from what I understand, the pollutants were like exceptionally higher.
They were. Correct.
And then we had every other type of industrial like pollutants that was unregulated.
We had
Coal
no
fire
cap.
power plants were
Right.
like 10 times more, whatever. And then they said like even in the 1800s, you couldn't even see across London because the coal from everybody's burning it in their house and everywhere else was so bad. Yet for some reason, everything's gotten 100 times more efficient, but the climate is now in a catastrophe. It just doesn't seem like that. So one thing that I'm well aware of is I spent a lot of time on the water. That's why I'm wearing this stupid hat right here.
And I got to ask you, where did you get the hat?
7-Eleven. This was like a
That's
joke.
a little piece of heaven.
Yes.
From 7-Eleven. You got it, man.
So if you go down the Chesapeake Bay, I was just fishing a couple days ago at an island that has 0 trees. It has one 30-foot patch of sand with 3 plants in the middle of it. At one point, it was a 1.5 miles long, had 350 residents, a church, a school, a post office.
What was this?
James Islands, directly across from St. Leonard.
Oh, wow.
Now, if you go south, maybe Point Lookout, you have like Smith Island. But if you go north of there, maybe like Patuxent Naval Air Station, you have Hooper's Island, which is 3 islands.
Right.
And then you had these 2 other islands that were out there that are no longer inhabited. The third Hooper's Island plus the other 2 islands, I can't remember the names of them, all had like hundreds and hundreds of people that lived on them.
And there's nobody there anymore?
There's a record of rising sea levels going back hundreds of years because there's been people in the bay since like the 1400s.
Correct.
So they're able to document that the sea levels have been rising. They're not rising necessarily any faster or slower. Even if they are, like it still kind of follows a progression of what's already been happening. It doesn't seem like something happened in the 1990s where all of a sudden
the switch turned on
and then everything got way worse. It just seems like, again, I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but the other thing that is odd about all this is if you look up the the U.S. electrical grid, we don't have the capacity to charge all these vehicles.
We don't.
So
no.
Dodge stopped making cars. Literally, you cannot buy a Challenger, you cannot buy a Charger, you cannot
about
buy a
Hellcat?
Hellcat, a Demon.
Whoa,
Can't
really?
buy any of the cars.
Yeah.
They stopped making them in order to start making electric cars. GM, Ford, Volkswagen Mercedes have all put dates in which they're going to stop making cars. I think the latest is like 2035,
So we should
2030,
we should get a
2029.
gas car now if we want to even have a gas car.
The only one that hasn't is Toyota. They're holding out.
But you know why, though, don't you? Which I think is wild as shit.
I think the reason why is because they're betting on this thing not working out the way that everybody's sort of. I think they're sort of seeing, and their hybrid is when I say hybrid, I mean like gas and electric combined is a better like in between
Right.
that seems
Brian,
to work.
Do you know what they're going to? Hydrogen.
They're not.
They're going to. man.
They've been making hydrogen cars forever, but there's no political will to build the infrastructure for hydrogen cars.
Not in the U.S.
Yeah.
But in Japan there is.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going to drive from. Japan's going to have massive success with hydrogen fueled vehicles, and then it's going to take off and come to the U.S. And it's just going to be a matter of, because you're going to have all these gas stations that are going to go defunct, and they have all these massive tanks and storage. They're going to convert them over to hydrogen, and Brian, it's going to be a hydrogen revolution. I'm dead serious, man.
I haven't read that. I've read the CEO. They got a new CEO of Toyota and all the things that he said. Like, he's been getting a lot of criticism for not getting on the bandwagon of everybody else, of setting a date and
But I
committing
think
to
he
flipping over their
recognizes
entire
that
fleet.
the electric grid cannot handle it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of reasons why. I think it's just not a good economic model because, not everybody necessarily wants an electric vehicle. Like,
Well, imagine when the storm knocks out the power grid for 4 days. What happens?
I'll tell you what my thing is with electric vehicles. I feel like there is something Orwellian about it. And part of it is just like what you hear. Like, because one of the ideas is the more connected that our vehicles get, the more on, like, so one of the issues people have with Tesla is, you buy yourself like a 1985 Corvette and you can fix everything on the car, and there's no electronics that are like nothing hooks up to the internet, obviously.
Right.
Tesla has a belief that they sort of own part of that car, and then they can update the car at their will and decide.
Like your laptop gets updated.
Yeah, kind of like how Microsoft or your phone gets updates, right? Like your phone, then your icons look different, and then your options are different. So Mercedes and BMW are both testing out this thing right now, and I think one of them has, and I think Tesla was doing something like this, where they were setting it up so that you could pay monthly to get your heated seats to work, or you could pay monthly to get an extra like 100 horsepower or 200. You could like to get your car to go super fast.
Wow,
You have to
really?
pay extra.
Yeah,
the technology's there, but you can't access it without paying them.
So they're controlling the software, in essence. They're controlling. Wow.
So take that a step further. Now, like all of a sudden, people believe that Greta Thunberg is correct, and that we only have 5 years left. And it's like, okay, well, listen, everybody is only allowed to drive 50 miles a day, and if so, you got to pay extra. But what if like,
which I think is coming, and that's my point. Going back to that whole conspiracy theory we talked about earlier.
they could just turn your car off, or they'll
Exactly.
just like you'll get an alert saying you've exceeded your miles, and they'll turn you around, or you'll have to pay a lot of extra money. The American like mentality of a vehicle is one of the things that kind of like is very American. Like because first of all, we have a lot of like physical. Like Europe is only the size of like Texas or whatever. Like we drive far, especially here in Southern Maryland. It's very American to drive.
But I'm going to back you up a bit here. I'm going to say it's very American to drive if you're over the age of 30.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Because think about it. So
No, you're right about that.
I mean,
The kids don't even get their driver's license
I'm like
anymore.
they can get learners at 15 years and 9 months.
Correct.
Dude, they're getting their learners at 21.
when they're forced to because
yeah.
of some other external force.
Yeah, they're getting ready to have kids at 35. I might as well get my license. You know what I'm talking about? So,
I do.
So I think that's all changing. I think that's what I'm saying. I think the conspiracy is that they're changing the way that we live our lives. And we're working from home.
It's not all market driven though. I think somehow these are like external forces. Like I feel like that there's like the government is mandated in a way that is like driving this, because it doesn't make sense that
Well,
we don't have a
is it the
grid to charge the
government?
cars. The people are
Right.
not even necessarily running out to buy them. They're not even cheap. Only 8% of cars are under $30,000 right now. So I mean, the average like a full electric vehicle is like $60,000 to $100,000.
Except for you look at a resale electric car right now. Dude,
They're very high as well.
No, they've dropped huge in price. I read an article the other day. They were talking about they cannot resell the used electric cars that are out there that are over 3
It
years
depends, because again, going back to this idea, right? Like, if you have a 1985 Corvette, you can go buy another motor. You can
get
buy.
parts. You can't do it with the electric cars, so
Well,
why would you buy it?
So here's the thing: Tesla doesn't allow you to put. Only they're allowed to replace the battery, and it's like $20,000. So there's a guy down in Florida who like figured out how to break it.
Yeah.
$2,500 is how much it actually cost to put the batteries in
Wow.
the car. Like they have aftermarket or whatever. This is an article I read.
yeah.
So I don't know. It feels like there's just something more to the story. But to the point, the grid isn't there. People don't necessarily want them.
Right.
It just feels un-American.
So I'm gonna turn it around and take it one step farther. You ready? Ready for this? So I agree. I'm not so much sure it's the government, more so than the private corporations behind the government, the Black Rocks of the world, if you will. I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? You know,
I was trying to like get through this without becoming a target of assassination, Tim. You
geez,
know what I'm saying?
Brian,
Like
you know.
I was trying not to go there. Get on the list now.
I'm already on the list.
Okay, all right. Well, now I
just
guess I'm on the
accept it.
list too.
Yeah. So think so.
Yeah,
so
you're
go
probably
back to
right.
it. Yeah. How's the world change? How does that affect real estate? How is it going to affect?
Does it affect real estate?
Huge. Because from a real estate standpoint, you're right. There's going to be limited amount of mobility. I think is huge. Number one.
But is there an external corporate influence on housing? I've never heard of that.
I think there is, because I think so many hedge funds own millions of houses. Think about it, Brian.
That's a new thing, right?
That is a new thing. And what happened was the hedge funds bought all these houses up from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, et cetera, during the 08, 09 crash,
Should have
right?
selling them, they kept them.
Yeah, they kept them. The thought was they were going to hold them as rentals temporarily, allow the market to recoup, and then resale. Well, they're looking around saying, I'm making massive amounts of rental income, right? Why am I going to sell these things? Why is there an inventory shortage? Part of it is
So what's
because,
the angle on the corporate like conspiracy that's going to
Oh.
affect the housing market? Like what is the thing that would be abnormal?
Well, from the housing standpoint, where do they own the houses? They don't own houses in the city, man. They're in the country. They're in
Really?
the suburbs. Yeah. And so they can control that piece. They control where you live. Then guess what? How are you going to buy your things? You're going to go to the mall? The mall doesn't exist anymore, man, right? You can buy everything on Amazon, some type of online service. Wow.
Did you
that
buy
just
anything on
changed.
Prime Day?
Yeah, dude, no, I didn't buy anything on Prime Day.
Okay.
I was boycotting Prime Day. Sorry, Prime, but it just wasn't my world. You know what I'm talking about? But I do. I get my herbal medicines. I get my vitamins. I got stuff coming all the time, right? Same principle applies. The world is changing. Our capitalistic system is changing. Housing is changing.
Now, see, I don't have a problem with Amazon because Amazon made the entire shipping industry who said we can't do this, we can't do that, and made them do it, and everything seems to be a little bit better because of it. Now, I don't necessarily
I don't have
agree
a problem with it. And that's
in the
my
monopoly.
point. I don't have a problem with it. My philosophy is that things have shifted, things have changed, and we need to recognize that.
But what is the shift that's going to be in housing that's going to be somehow affecting us that we're not aware of? Like, where's the blind spot?
So the blind spot, if you will, or really the drive, and we saw this early on. Think about this: 2021. What did our kids go to school? They were homeschooled. Everything was on the internet. We're gonna move farther away from having to build brick and mortar buildings. Farther away from having I mean, think about the savings, Brian. I mean, the massive savings. Not having
It's
these
cheaper to
massive
live in the
schools.
city though than it is to build on three. Like where we live,
Well, cities are going to be
you're
different
building
too.
single families on an acre with a septic tank is way more than
Right.
an apartment building.
So what's going to happen is they're going to take all these commercial buildings that
Into
are
apartments.
basically becoming empty, and they're going to create them into city centers where you're going to have floors from 0 to the 20th floor. First floor is going to be retail, right? Bottom floor is going to be parking. Second and third floor are going to be the gyms, the daycare centers, the office centers.
That's how they do it in Asia.
It's huge. And then floors through 20 will be residential. And it'll all be down one. People won't own cars. The complex comes with a condo fee, if you will, and every condo fee pays for you have 20 hours usage of an electric vehicle that's plugged in the building all the time, right? You've got
Makes
utilization of the office space. You've got the gymnasium. It comes with daycare centers too. It's a win-win. You know what I mean? I'm looking at it from that perspective. And I'm thinking, if you're a young person and you never want to have to drive, you don't have to, because electric cars will drive themselves.
Well, somebody we know that lives in a huge house, very, very, very nice house,
Yeah.
was just looking at condos in Annapolis. And the condos are built literally over the water.
Wow.
And the bottom floor units all
Yeah.
have garages for their boats.
Yep.
And they have kayaks and paddle boards all along the wall. You just come
yeah.
down and then you just hop in, and then
You
like
hop and
there's
go.
like condos all the way up and down over the water, and you just like pull your boat up and go in your house.
Or if you look at the slips that are farther out, there's power boats. You can have
Yeah.
slopes for power boats, sailboats. Or if you're in the right project, you can actually have the ability to use one of the project's boats.
Yeah.
So Brian, so take that concept and go the next step. So here you want to have a vacation spot, and you're like, what do I want? I don't want all the maintenance. I don't want a headache. I want to be able to go on the boat every now and then. I want to go to a place that's got a pool. I want to be in a central city. That's the pivot. So the pivot and the change is the way we look at real estate. And the pivot is what we're going to be using our houses for. No longer is it a place to live, but no longer is it a place to entertain. It's where we're going to go to school. It's where we're going to do our work. It's going to be where we socialize. Socializing,
80% of people live in cities. That's already a thing. But I wonder how much of it is because of necessity. Like, you grew up there. There's nowhere
Right.
else to live. You couldn't afford to live out in the suburbs. It's too far to drive to get to work because this is the only place you know.
You don't have to drive anymore.
So if you have the option to live, that reverse
Yeah.
scenario is true, where if you can work from home, you can live. We see a lot of people buying out, like in southern part of St. Mary's County and Piney Point.
Dude, we see people going
Ridge
to
and
South
Skyland.
Carolina, and their
Yeah.
job is in D.C. I mean, think
West
about-
Virginia.
and you start thinking that, and all of a sudden, the real estate centers are going to change. California, look at people are leaving California, right? Not only because of its taxes, not only because of how expensive it is, but also their jobs are allowing them to work from other areas. They're moving to Texas. Buy a house for $250 in Texas. First, I'm selling my house in
There's no
California
more
for $1
of
million.
those. Yeah, there's no more 250s. They're all 600 now.
Not here, but
Texas.
Texas, yeah.
Texas, they are.
But also it was 110 degrees the other day. I mean, you're going to bake. It's
gonna stay that way.
Shake and bake down there, man. Exactly right. So my point is, the whole evolution of real estate is changing. The whole evolution of the way we do our lives is changing. The whole evolution of driving and of cars and of the electric grid and the alternative technologies. We haven't even gotten into, ready? Artificial intelligence. When is the last time you called on a phone and it was for medical or was from insurance or any kind of service? Did you get a person right away?
Well, yeah. I mean, what I try to do my best to break it. I just go 000000000
Yeah.
or pound.
They still ask
pound.
you, please pronounce
Customer
your
service,
first
customer
and
service,
last
customer
name.
service, customer service.
Please give us
so
your
I fight
birth
the
date.
power as much as I can. But
Right.
yeah, I see what you. Yeah, I have had. One time I had a positive interaction when they asked me a series of questions and they were able to kind of get
I
me.
love this. Ready? You do the 00000 and it says your current wait time is 29 minutes. Would you like to leave your name and number?
No,
for
I
a
don't mind
callback?
that. I don't mind that because
Okay.
now I can put my phone down and
do something
I do
else.
trust that they will call me back
And
because
they
it
will.
does
Oh,
work.
you're now in the queue.
But the
They're
one
gonna
I
call you
don't
back.
like is when you hit 000 1,000 times. It says we're sorry, we were unable to understand what you wanted. Goodbye, and they hang up and they
do hang up,
force
dude.
you
So-
into the number.
Back and so now think about businesses. Do businesses need a receptionist? No. You just saved $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, right? Do businesses need brick and mortar? No, we don't need the brick and mortar offices anymore. We can all work from home. Think about the massive savings. Now think about the impact on the environment. Think about your child care. You've got 3 little kids. They're going homeschool at home. You're concerned about their well-being because of all the craziness out in the world. Let's call it what it is, right? Now you can watch your kids at home. You can still work from home. And by work says, hey, you just got to get these tasks done. So you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning before the kids get up. You work from 5 to 9. The kids
That's
are up at
literally
9
my
o'clock.
life, Tim. My
So-
kids have been homeschooled the whole time. I've been working from home the whole time. COVID had zero impact on my life. I was doing the same exact
Because you were
thing.
already ahead of the curve,
Well, I'm
Brian.
just saying, like,
Yeah.
it had zero change. My life, I was actually disappointed because everybody else was living this adventure, and I was like,
And you're like,
This is my everyday.
This is
Yeah.
the event. And
No,
you could have taught classes on how to live the life of COVID.
Well, I did send out some videos on like how to get your Zoom game up. All right, so how do you get? You know, it's still to this day it aggravates me when people are doing Zoom calls and they have like a bright window behind them and they're staring down at the camera and it's looking up at them and the lighting is terrible and it's bright behind them and they're dim. And like you're on TV or something. It's like, bro, could you maybe think through this a little bit? Understand how to get some lighting, make it look nice.
I love it when you see the little kid running behind it.
Yeah, I mean, and
You're like,
Tim,
oh my
Tim, we
goodness,
decided we're gonna make
Yeah.
Tim green today.
Hey,
we
green is
switched.
money, Brian.
Green is his Irish roots.
There you go, man.
I'm still red. I don't know why.
That's your German roots, Brian. We talked about this before, man.
Yeah, I'm actually like 35%. I'm probably. I don't know how. Have you ever done your DNA?
No, but my brother did.
What's his numbers?
As far you're laugh. I am a pure mutt.
Well,
Yeah.
everybody is.
Irish, English, Scottish,
I'm
German,
exactly that.
French.
I'm exactly all that.
Eastern European.
But what's your percentages though? I tell you, mine is.
I have no idea.
Mine's 30, like 38% Irish from. It starts with a C. It's like some town there, and
really?
and
That's
like
cool.
not everybody can trace it back that far, but they literally like I have relatives that they were able to identify that still live there.
Wow.
And then Scottish is like 25%,
Sure.
and then English, and then there's like a little bit of here and there. But I'm basically in those two
Yeah.
islands.
I'm
all in.
Eastern European. I don't know where the heck that is. Who knows, right? Yeah.
You're part Russian.
Yeah. We don't talk about that though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? What were we talking about?
So back to the story, the conspiracy theory, the changes that we're seeing, and the little subtle hints that we're starting to notice that are starting to come out, and the impact it's going to have on real estate long term, which to me says, the city centers were going to continue to decline for the time being. That's why you have a massive crime in the cities.
The massive
Brian,
crime is a political thing.
It's growing. So what's going to do is going to force people out of the city into the country. People are going to be working from home even more than they're working now. We're going to shift into the electric, cars. We're going to be pushed into it, shoved. I don't care what it's going to take, but everybody's going to go electric, right? Gasoline is going to be shunned. Diesel is going to be shunned. And we may have some alternative vehicles and alternative fuel systems coming into play. We don't know. I think Japan's going to go there. This is my humble opinion on hydrogen. So you are going to see changes. That tells me that real estate, even more in the suburban rural areas, is continuing to grow. And I think prices are just going to continue going up. I don't see them going down at all, except for
the two things will make it go down. One, there is a crisis of human beings not reproducing in the United States of America.
Which is all,
so at some point, it's going to do that.
Yeah.
Right now, what you have is like
the huge immigrant population coming on board.
Well, you also have like the generation, whatever they are now, the XYZ, the Z generation, is coming into becoming homeowners.
And when they come
what is the greatest generation? What are they called? The baby boomers. The baby boomers still live in houses.
Yep.
So there's pressure on the market because there's not enough houses.
But when the baby boomers
pass
finally
away,
or
then they'll finally
move into independent centers.
Just the number of houses will start to equalize. But in the meantime, they're still not building enough houses.
They're not. They say right
and
now
there's no plans
a 10-year backflow.
Yeah.
And more importantly, they're not building affordable houses.
Correct.
So I think there's a combination of things here. So I think going back to the whole principle, they're not building cars, gasoline-powered cars anymore. I think you call them ICEs, and so the combustible engines are going away. I think that's number one. I think our grid can't support it, so they're going to limit the amount of drive. I think it's a huge savings to the local governments, even to the roadways, even to some of the facility centers that are out there. I think there's going to be a huge conversion or shift of the cities into residential areas, but it's going to take some time where they're going to take these massive buildings they're going to convert from commercial into residential space. I think in turn, it's going to be supporting the 20 and 30 generations that aren't driving, that want a different way of life. They're going to have fewer kids that are very focused on travel, of personal comfort. Okay, and that's where we're going.
It's a very narcissistic approach to life.
Well, it is what it is. I mean, or is it realistic, right? So,
yeah, I mean, you're right about the cities they're building in Dallas, which is the cutting edge, because that's where people are moving to Dallas. It's like the number one destination in Florida, but Florida's they're moving.
Florida's
everywhere.
actually they're starting to move out. Did you see that article the other day?
The last year, it was the biggest destination.
So
More people moved to Florida than anywhere else.
what happened in Florida? There's a massive change that just occurred. Insurance companies are moving out. You can't get
That
insurance.
was California.
Yeah, same thing. California and Florida, massive exodus of insurance companies. So suddenly your insurance goes from a cheap policy, which was $2,400, to $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 to insure your home. Exit stage right. I mean, think about it, Brian. I mean, I'm gonna go to Georgia. It's an hour away. I'm gonna go to Louisiana. I'm gonna go to Texas. I'm gonna go to Arizona. You know what I
Plenty
mean?
of people that are willing to take that house and take over that insurance payment. Like, I'll be there. Just give me a couple years. The thing is, like, we're becoming Florida little by little with this temperatures. It's been 95 degrees every day.
So again, the glaciers are melting, sea level's rising, and we don't have any more islands.
But getting back to Dallas really quick, and we were just discussing
Yeah.
the future of housing.
Sure.
And I talked to a guy 10 years ago who told me that the future of housing, and this is what they're actually doing, walkable communities,
Underground tunnels, underground access
I haven't seen that.
in Dallas. Yeah,
But
man.
I tell you what, to me could be one of the greatest lifestyles ever.
Yeah.
Everything is better on a golf cart. You take your kids to school on a golf cart, drop
Sure.
them off,
Sure.
swing by.
And are they
I was going to say
electric or
Target, but they're
gas?
probably boycotting Target. So they're going to swing by Kohl's or Walmart,
yeah.
from the golf cart.
Yeah.
And then they go to the Starbucks or whatever their cafe
So
is.
whole
of choice.
society is electric vehicles.
Then they go to the park.
Yeah. And everything's underground, and we'll become
Where's underground?
mole
Where's the mole
people.
people?
We're
Where's
gonna
this
become
at?
Mole people.
Where-
Not mole
where's
people,
this at?
Mole people.
Where's that?
Yeah, it's coming to Dallas, Texas, to a city near you. Oh,
You
Brian,
gotta go.
I gotta go, man.
All right, Tim. Good
dude.
talk, man.
Good talk. I'll catch up with you, man. Later.